Hi folks, I hope you're keeping well. I'm in this wood. It's just incredibly beautiful. I can't get over how long autumn has hung around this year. It's quite amazing. But we don't have a lot of light today. It's quite grey, murky, dank, which is quite appropriate really, because today's subject, concepts I'd like to share, relate to social media and online photographic services, the stuff that many photographers get drawn into. I think photographers are quite unique in the way that we have a multitude of websites and companies firing photography related content at us, stuff that only photographers will use. So we don't just have the standard traditional social media tirade of abuse being thrown at us, but we also get all this photography stuff on top. And a lot of these photography sites are social platforms. They incorporate chat services and blog posts where they encourage us to interact. I'm going to try my best not to name any of them today, but they encourage interaction, they encourage our frequent visits, and it's a social platform. So this will suit people looking to cultivate a better relationship with the whole swathe of junk we get chucked at us. Now, if you're happy with your online presence, if you've got plenty of time, if it doesn't feel like it's overly cluttered or taking too much of your freedom up, it might be useful to you in the future, because chances are somewhere down the line it's going to become overwhelming. I think for most people who aren't extremely, and I do mean extremely, regimented about how they operate online, this grows, it builds, and it creeps up on us, I think. It certainly does for me. So I've got these 3 simple concepts today that I'd like to share with you. Simple things for you to think about, things that might help cultivate that healthy relationship. I'll come to them in a second. I just want to qualify myself here. My background's tech. I spent close to 30 years in the tech industry, and I know I don't look that old. And about 10 of those years was spent consulting and designing, implementing, building some really quite complex business systems. So I understand how organisations use data. I understand how it flows. I understand how it's used, how it's capitalised upon, and I have a very clear perspective of that side of the fence. But I also understand it from a user's perspective. I see the problems, I see the crafty ways in which we hand over the rights to our personal information. I see how we're encouraged to visit frequently, how we're encouraged to get into this mindset of like and follow. And all it does is draw us to the platform. It takes our time and draws us to an environment where the organisation behind it capitalises on it. They say it's free to use. Most of them say it's free to use, at least initially, but nothing is free. None of this is free. It comes at a tremendous cost. And that's kind of what I want to share today. I'm not going to get into any reviews of individual services or service providers. I tar them all with the same brush, big and small. The concept behind it's the same, and it's not good, it's not big, it's not clever. But I'm not going to get into that. I'm not going to get into the pros and cons. I'm not going to get into the risks and the threats. I think we all know this. We all sense, don't we, this undercurrent of invasion. It's an invasive, pervasive activity that seeps into our daily life. I mean, at one end of the spectrum, we're not unfamiliar in the news to see stories of youngsters who are identifying personally with their online profile. It's really sad and it's really risky, and I'm sure most of us are aware of this, so I'm sure most of us defend ourselves against this. But what I'm coming to today is, how can we improve that further? How can we use this thing to our advantage rather than it use us for their advantage? So this first concept, if it's dead, bury it. Simple enough. If you have an account that sits there dormant, you really ever, if ever, visit, it was something that you got roped into opening and never got round to closing, this stuff is dodgy as you like, and it needs to be deleted. I would highly recommend, strongly recommend, anybody with those kinds of accounts, if it's dead, bury it, close it, shut it down, go to the site, recover your password if you forgot it, contact the companies, tell them you want your account closing and your data removed formally. This is a big deal. And it's not about having a tidy mind and declutter your thinking, although that is one of the benefits. It's about what these companies do with that information. You're recorded as an active, or at least a user on a platform. You may not be listed as active, you might be listed as inactive. However, they still have your data and they still sell it, and you still get spammed by it. You still appear on other lists in other places as a result, or you can do. Do you want that? Just because you're not using a service doesn't mean it's not using you. This is really important, folks. It's really, really important, and it harps back onto my days in the industry. The other thing about these accounts that I notice myself is how they distract. They distract me. I remember I've got an account somewhere and I'm curious about how it's changed, so I check up, I have a look, I log back in. The company that holds my data records that activity, and all of a sudden I'm an active user instead of an inactive user, and they can start spamming me all the more. Whether or not that happens, the concept of having open accounts is a dodgy one, and I would highly recommend you to think about this. Just skim back through I have an app that contains my security, and I often skim through it and see what I can remove. Stuff I've changed, old email addresses that I've no longer used, anything. Wherever you have a presence online that is inactive, please, I implore you, delete it. There are multiple benefits to this thing. Concept 2, avoid bad habits. And we're not talking about nose picking, leaving the top off the toothpaste tube, toilet seat, washing your pots, underwear on the floor. We're not talking about those bad habits. We're talking about the habit that can be formed by not knowing why you subscribe to a service or a social media platform. Why are you there? Do you know? Have you ever asked yourself? Why not? You should. That's it. Seriously, it's a point of asking the question, consciously asking the question, what does this service or what does this social media platform offer you? Understand why you're there. Know the reason for your presence. Why are you giving them your most precious time, your personal data, and visiting frequently, assuming that you do, which most of you probably do, as I do. It's about the consciousness of it. It's about knowing why you're there. Would it help? Would it help ultimately nurture, cultivate, develop a healthier, more productive workflow, a healthier, more productive lifestyle? I mean, this becomes part of daily life. Checking accounts, scouring emails, looking at notifications, all of it draws down your precious time. Could it cost you any more than that? I'm not talking money. Is there anything more precious than time? Your time? Because when it's gone, it's gone. We're done. Why give it to these services? Why give it to these social platforms? Why don't we go out there and experience some of life rather than share some data? It's bad. It is bad, bad stuff. If we want to cultivate, develop, and harness a healthier life, digital life, that's the word, digital life. I'm making this up as I go along, can you tell? I'm not. If we want things to improve, we need to start asking what we're doing. We need to know. We need to clearly understand why are we on this site. And if we're not satisfied with the answers, we need to turn it into something dead, so that we can then go back to step one, concept one, and we can bury it deep. Third and final concept. And concept 3 falls back into the other two really. And it's a practical step that we can all do. It's a practical way of changing our mindset, our entire relationship with social media and online services. And the practical step is to put a price on your time. Now, when I was in the industry, I'd have this principle told to me in different contexts, in different ways, but it was always on a weak side of this argument. In summary, they would say, if you could gain an extra hour a day and have a 25-hour a day, how much would you pay for that extra hour? And I don't think that that's as much as what we would pay if we lost an hour of our day. How much would we pay to get that hour back? How much would we pay to see a full 24 hours rather than just 23 every single day? And it's more sobering to look at it that way in my mind. I hope you agree. 1 hour of your life, how many pounds is it worth? How many dollars, rupees, euros, yen, chickens, peanuts? How much is an hour of your life worth? And how many hours do you give away for free each month to platforms that you don't know why you're there? Not that you don't know why you're there, you perhaps don't clearly see what the return for that spend is. If you give a site 5 hours in the month, what do you get for your 5 hours? What does that 5 hours bring for you? Because I can tell you exactly what they get for your time there, and it's not pretty. I mean, these organisations are very invasive. Some of them are extremely ruthless. They're cunning, they're manipulative, they don't clearly tell us what they're doing with our data, although legally they're obliged to today. They give the information to us in a way, in a format that most people simply wouldn't absorb. It wouldn't be worth it. And whilst we won't spend an hour of our life reading those essential terms, we will give them an hour every day, or an hour every week, or an hour every month, without really understanding why. This is the single biggest factor in the whole of this process of cultivating a better relationship with social media and online photography platforms. The more you think about how much time you're investing, the more you relate that to a cost to you, and there is no greater cost than a loss of life, is there? Surely the other two concepts here make more sense. In isolation they sound weak, but together it makes you in control. You're in charge. You take back all the power from the platforms and you take control of your online digital presence. Your relationship improves. Your workflow arguably will improve. Your social presence will improve. The amount of spam you receive will reduce. You'll have more time to shoot, more time to process, more time for family, more time simply by running through these three concepts. The first of which, if it's dead, bury it. That's not just to clear the decks, that's also to reduce the amount of ripples that roll your way. Get rid of them, bury it. Second concept, avoid bad habits, or a bad habit in particular. If you use Facebook and you're there every day and you check your notifications and you've never asked yourself, why am I here? And you really don't know why you're there. Maybe now's a good time to think about that and take action on it. Either see the value, appreciate the value and accept it, and accept that you're going to pass over a certain amount of your life to that platform, or delete it, kill it, stomp it dead and bury it. It really is that simple, and watch what happens to life as a result. Make it work for you, don't work for it, and just it comes back down finally to the third concept of putting a price on 1 hour of your life. How much is it worth? It's a really difficult formula to process for people who haven't seen it from both sides of the fence. And I appreciate that because I have been on both sides of the fence. I just hope that in some small way, these three little concepts will encourage one or two people to just take stock, Think about social media and your photography, your general digital presence and how well organised it is, and decide whether or not you want to cultivate something better. In essence, at the end of the day, I mean, I have perhaps, you see, even now, I don't even know. This is a great example of how it gets you. I can't tell you the number of accounts I have open that are photography based. I would estimate it's something like 5, possibly 6. And of those, I'd say 3 of them I don't use weekly, but I do use their service for my benefit. The others I use more frequently. Instagram is my worst. I use that daily, multiple times each day. That's my guilty pleasure, and I use that to communicate with like-minded people, some amazing, amazing souls. That to me is a joy. That's an absolute privilege and pleasure, and I don't see any harm in that because I'm mindful of concepts 1, 2 and 3 all the time. I've gone way deeper than I wanted to. This was going to be a really short video, so I'm going to wrap up now. I'm going to say I hope I've got the message across. I hope I published this. I hope 1 or 2 points help somebody think about what they have as a digital presence, and I hope it helps. Okay, I'm going to call this a wrap. Next week will be the last in this series, 3 of 3, and it's a stinker. Social media is bad enough, but yeah, the next one's a real testing subject. But we'll get to that one next week, hopefully. It may be the week after, don't hold me to next Thursday. This two video week is quite a tough schedule for me, so I'm doing my best to get this out as planned. So that's going to be a wrap, folks. I'm going to bung my camera on a stick and I'm going to start and have a wander around and try and shoot some of this amazing, amazing colour. How can I not? Next video is Saturday, but for today I'm going to say thank you very much for watching. Please take care of one another, and until next time, if you can't be good, just be careful. I'll see you soon. Bye for now. If it's bad, derry it. Ooh, now that's interesting. Oh man alive. If it's bad, derry it. Doofus.